Hello and welcome to the Riverfront Reds Show, where we will spend the next hour talking about the new Superman movie. Chris, did you see it yet?
No, I have not. And I don't even have a good joke prepared.
With Chris Garber, I am Seth Shaner. I did see it with my kids today. James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy fame. There's a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy type hijinks and joking and things like that in there. I enjoyed it. I think probably since Superman 2, it's probably the first effort of a Superman movie, which that says a lot because that's been a while. So I guess I need to let it wash over me a little bit. What's that?
Is it as good as Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain on ABC in the mid 90s?
Mid 90s me, who fell into the routine with my dad had started dating my stepmother around that time, and Sunday night was pizza night. And so we would eat pizza and watch Lois and Clark. And I met Terry Hatcher for the first time on that show and was, no, I didn't, because she was on Seinfeld. That teenage me would probably have still taken that, although Rachel Brosnahan is nice. So
there were a few of us in college that would sit down and watch that show entirely for Terry Hatcher.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was thinking about that today, actually, because, I was obviously young when I watched the first Superman from, Christopher Reeve, and I never understood it with Margot Kidder. So, like when Terry Hatcher was Lois, I was like, oh my goodness. All right, we've started talking about Superman instead of your Cincinnati Reds. I texted you a few weeks ago about my Kindle. I shared that story here on the Riverfront. By the time I shared the story on the Riverfront Reds Show, I don't know if you got to see that, and I know I didn't update you. I think what it came down to is I think I accidentally threw it in the recycling bin. So I shared that story. Yeah, it's all on me. It's my fault. But as is funny, these last few weeks, I have a story to share. And I'd like to get your feedback, and then we'll jump right into the Reds, which earlier in the week, me sharing stories would be a lot more entertaining than talking about what the Reds were doing on basically Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But the story goes like this. I had to take my sons to go get some errands run. We had to get some new dry fit shirts for my oldest because he's going to go to a team soccer camp. So I said, you know what? We'll just stop by Wendy's. We'll grab a bite to eat, and then we'll go to couple stores, Dick's or Meijer or whatever. We'll see what they have. We go into Wendy's. We order our food. We sit down. There's a guy in the corner. Have you noticed? I don't know if you've been in a Wendy's recently, but the newer remodels of the Wendy's, they'll put like a sofa or something in the corner, or maybe even like one of those like electric or gas fireplace features.
Like Tim Hortons has the same deal. Yeah.
Right. So that'll be in the corner. Yeah, it's basically off the same ownership. And I sit down. I notice this guy. And he's sitting over in the corner. He's got a backpack. It's not exactly like this, but he's got a water bottle of sorts. And he's vaping, like in the corner there. All right. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I can't even see. He's charging his phone. I couldn't even see if he had ordered any Wendy's food or anything like that, but he's over there. We eat our food. There's no interaction. He's way across the restaurant. It's no big deal. He gets up and leaves. And about that time, I'm putting my kids' stuff on the tray, and I stood up and I walk over, and as I'm throwing my stuff away, I'm looking out the window just to the right of the trash can, and the guy's casing my car. Like, he's walking around my car, he's looking in the windows, and then as he gets around to the right back, he looks in the back window, and then he starts leaning on my car, like on the rear quarter panel, like he's trying to act like it's his car or something, and he's impressing some girl that's walking by, which there was no girl. And I was just like, what's going on here? And so I opened the door to Wendy's, and I thought it shut behind me. And I just yelled across the parking lot. I said, get off my car. And I startled him. And his answer to me was this. And I still can't believe it. I want to hear your thought. He says, well, you didn't have to say it that way. And so I said, what do you mean? Well, how else would I say it? I said, you're looking in my car windows and then you're leaning on my car. How else did you want me to say it? And he says, well, I was just looking to see if anybody was in your car. I was like, why? And I go, why would you? I said, just get away from it. And he just over and over, he's like, well, you didn't have to say it that way. And he didn't look homeless or anything like that. I mean, you don't know anybody's frame of mind. But he made me feel bad for him being on my car. And I'm like, what? This doesn't make sense.
I don't think once that switch gets flipped for me and I'm in confrontation mode, it takes a while to turn it back off. So,
well, it went back and forth about 3 or 4 times. And then I knew at some point, I'm like, I'm not winning with this guy. He's off my car now. I think he's going to walk away. So I just said, you know what? You're right. I should have just said, could you please get away from my car? I'm sorry if I yelled at you. But then I couldn't help myself. I said, but you could also apologize for being on my car. And he goes, you're right. I'm sorry for being on your car. And he just walked away.
You guys got it all squashed.
I was like, I don't understand.
That is bizarre, man.
And like I said, I came back in and there was these 2 grandparents and their little kids, about 9 and 10-year-old kids. And they came in right after we did. And the grandpa looked at me and I thought it was some combination of, I feel for you, buddy. But also like, why were you yelling? And I was like, oh, I was like, come on guys, let's go. And it turns out later, my kids tell me that the door hadn't shut all the way. And they heard me, they could all hear me yelling at this guy.
Oh, I thought you meant the car door hadn't shut all the way.
No, the Wendy's door.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I was safely out in the traffic sounds and all that. And regardless. All right. Your Cincinnati Reds. When I texted you earlier this week, I said the title of the show might be Airing of Grievances because it was getting pretty bad out there in Reds land, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was like 36 hours ago, I think.
Yeah. It's amazing. But that's typified of this season, isn't it? Like if I keep calling it a roller coaster, and I thought we had kind of gotten back up, like for about 3 or 4 weeks in a row, they were pretty steady, right? The Reds were, and that's how they built that, getting to 4 games over 500, and that became the summit they couldn't cross. Remember, all April and May it was 500 itself, and then they would get to 4 games over, and they just couldn't get above that. Which we want more, we're greedy. But my goodness, it took a severe turn beginning Saturday, but really Sunday against Wheeler, didn't it? And then Monday and Tuesday were just so forgettable against the Marlins, non-competitive.
Yeah, that's and just bad baseball, not competitive, not interesting, just blah.
Yeah, and the offense just went south completely.
5 runs in 4 games.
They took a 1-run lead in all 4 games of the 4-game losing streak, and then it wasn't until like the bottom of the 8th that they scored a run on Tuesday night, or else it would have been 4 games in a row with only 1 run, and all of them games that they led. That was crazy. But they righted the ship a little bit these last 2 games. We'll talk about that. Let's talk about a little bit of the news of the week. There's still reports swirling about whether Nick Krall will make any moves, and certainly us as fans discuss this all the time. But to me, give me your take on this. To me, the media and then us as fans, we seem to be way more eager to do something than management at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm resigned to it at this point. I have zero expectation they're going to do anything. It's just not what they do. They're not as interested in winning as we are. I don't, peaks and valleys, I guess. This is what they want.
Yeah, and our good friend Chad Dotson has been tweeting a little bit about that, and somebody sent him like a mock-up of a Reds hat with 81 and 81 on either side of the wishbone C. It's just like, yeah, that's what we're building for. Let's talk a little bit, though, about some of these proposed trades, and these aren't just fans being silly, and maybe media members get too much credit. But the one that really got me, because I'm usually trying to say, no, let's win now. Let's go get somebody. But the idea that they would trade, and this was, I think, in Tim Kirchin's piece the other day, Byron Buxton from the Twins, who I love as a player, but he's always hurt. The idea was that the Reds would give Rhett Lauder, Chase Petty, and Sal Stewart for Byron Buxton, who averages like 81 games a year.
Yeah, Byron Buxton makes Eric Davis look like Cal Ripken.
And but the funny thing was when he was younger, that's who people tried to compare him to was Eric Davis. And he's
I like buying
great
investing, but I wouldn't invest, $5 in that guy. There's just no way.
I mean, I could go as far as Petty and maybe a few other B prospects that are so far down that but Sal Stewart is going to be maybe in the big leagues by mid next year, and Rhett Lauder, when he's healthy, will be a centerpiece for 6 years to come.
Yeah, and there's more important than us thinking it's a bad idea. There is no way Nick Krall does that.
No.
I mean, a prospect hugger that he is, there is no way he's going to add salary and dump major league caliber prospects who are going to be cheap for a long time.
No, yeah. Now, I will say the next one is a little more exciting for me, and it actually didn't offer up who they would give up, so that might scare me if I saw who it would be. But, we've talked before when we talked about fanhood and things like that. One of the things for me being in the middle of nowhere where I grew up and not having cable was I would get sporting news every week. And eventually I would read everything, right? But I remember going through it the first time and looking for the Reds report and then any other article that mentioned the Reds. Like I want to read about the Reds first. And I still do that today, like when the Athletic or ESPN or somebody has a story and I'm like, oh, did they talk about the Reds? And I scroll through it. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's usually guys the Reds would dump, right, in the past years. But Jeff Passan did a piece that came out this morning about contenders that could add and who they could add. And he said, we're gonna give somebody every contender could add. And it gave me some bit of happiness that the Reds are listed as a contender for the playoffs, which they are, but they were sitting at 500 or a game over 500 when the article came out. But here it is. And it's a guy I actually talked about at the beginning of the season that I just would love to have. He said the Reds should swing a trade with Cleveland for Stephen Kwan.
That would be cool.
Now, I got a bit of trivia for you. You and I like trading trivia. And it's in his article, so I'm stealing this from Jeff Passan. Did you know that Stephen Kwan's WAR over the last 4 years ranks 5th among all outfielders in baseball?
Wow.
Who's ahead of him, do you think?
Juan Soto.
Mm-hmm. Number 2.
Does Fernando Tatis count as an outfielder?
Apparently not, or is not above Stephen Kwan.
Okay. Aaron Judge.
Yep, he's number 1. So you got the first Shohei 2 of 4 ahead of him.
I guess Shohei Ohtani's a DH.
Right. Probably never. Hasn't played much outfield at all.
Corbin Carroll?
No, too young. Probably he's only had this is third
played long enough. Is Trout still on the list?
Nope.
Michael Tucker?
Kyle Tucker. I think that's who you meant.
I know. I do it all the
time. Yeah, Kyle Tucker's 3rd. And the last one fell off a little bit last year, but he came on the scene gangbusters. Center fielder.
Who am I forgetting?
Julio Rodriguez.
Oh, yeah. Because I looked at something the other day, and he was lower than I expected him to be.
Yeah, and again, he had a down year last year. Of course, every time he gets to play the Reds, for some reason, he torches them. But now here's my question, though, to you. I love Stephen Kwan. I think putting the ball in play is such a lost art in baseball that a guy like him or a Rise, and that's one of the things I like about Friedel this year. Do you think a guy that I kind of covet to have on the Reds, but do you think a guy like that is going to make the impact you would want for, a 2.5 month or a 2 months period of time to try to make the playoffs?
I mean, he doesn't fit what they need, which is power.
Right.
But he's a pretty good hitter, man. And would be a nice fit out there with them, I think. I think he cost a lot, man, because he's not even ARB eligible yet.
Right. And again, this is passing pie in the sky. Probably barely ever thinks about the Cincinnati Reds. as a national writer. But yeah, I just think he would fit so well. And he even said, I'll give him credit. He said he'd fit right there between Friedel and Ellie. And I like McLean a lot. I think he's rounded out into being a little better player, obviously, than he was for about a month and a half. But right now, if you said, oh, you could put Quan right there, that'd be pretty amazing. Because we worry about guys not getting on base in front of Ellie.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, gun to your head, I assume you would say the only moves they're going to make are Sam Maul-like moves, right? I mean, there's middle of the bullpen
the name that's in my head.
Yeah, it was the only move they made in 2023 when they were actually in first place.
Yeah,
that's what's hard. Like,
I mean, yeah,
we sit around and say there's no way they won't make a move this year, and it's like, remember, they were in first place and didn't make a move. That was made the one only move. So,
yeah, I mean, they may get a left-handed Connor Joe or something.
oh no,
they may acquire a Phil Gosselin type. But no, I don't expect them to go get anybody that moves the needle who's actually a really good baseball player.
And that's the thing you get. Like, if you got a guy like Quan or Juan Duran, or, if you get a guy that you could just say is your everyday player, right? I mean, if you had Hayes, Friedel, and Juan Duran in your outfield, which I was listening today, MLB Network Radio, and they're like, any team that gets him, if the Red Sox deal him, is better automatically. And I think the same could be said probably about Quan as well.
Are they going to trade Duran?
That I keep hearing these rumors about it. That would be a guy.
Got all these young guys.
Yeah, right. They're flush with outfielders, whereas like that's what they're saying. Of course, one of the rumors was that Lodolo for him, which if Rhett Lauder were healthy, I'd feel better about. But
if Hunter Green or Rhett Lauder were healthy.
Right, but the thing crazy for them is they had Sale, and that's who Lodolo gets compared to so much, and so they probably would see that comparison. But one thing I want to talk to you about too is, like, despite the fact that they had played so much better before that 4-game losing streak, being around town here in Columbus, or even talking to people that I know, the apathy is really big. Even when the Reds made that run to get above 500 by 4 games here or there, I'm really kind of surprised. I talked to a diehard fan on Sunday afternoon, and they had lost that game Saturday, but they were in the game. They could have won that one. They had no chance against Wheeler on Sunday. But this was before the Wheeler game, and he had zero zeal for it. And this guy's a guy that, like, the one thing he and I would talk about, we're not like best friends or anything. We, meet in passing. And the thing we always used to talk about was the Reds. And he's like, I don't pay attention as much anymore.
Well,
and that just
had no extended winning streak, which is a great way to capture people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
They made no big moves in the offseason. And then I think everybody feels, obviously, you've got a fan base that's been kicked in the teeth for 25 or 15 years, right? 13 years at a minimum. And 2020, I don't know. I feel like we could all write that off. But 2023, man, that's when they told us this group of owners and front office doesn't really care about winning.
Right.
I think if they'd done something that year, got over the hump, made it to the playoffs, or done something in 24 or 25, I think people might give them the benefit of the doubt and get on board. But as it is now, they're going to have to be playing well and in legitimate contention, not 5 games out of the wild card with 4 teams in front of them in September before I think anybody buys in, or win 12 games in a row coming out of the All-Star break or something.
Right. The strategy of just make the playoffs, sneak on in, we were happy to say that in 23 because we'd been in the wilderness so long and those young guys were so exciting. That sneak on in mentality that year made sense. But when if you were to build upon what you had in 23, you're right, either last year or going into this year. And in fact, going into this year's worse, because you saw last year that not all the guys we thought were up and coming in 23 seem to be as good as we had hoped.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you could say, hey, let's go ahead and build around the guys we do believe in. And then if these other guys do well, that's gravy, or they're trade pieces. If they do well in AAA, or if they do get a little spot here or there in the big club. And yeah, the idea that because of more playoff spots, you could just tread water and then maybe sneak in, and then who knows? That's not going to sell tickets or get people to watch every night.
No. I mean, it's competitively and economically, it's not the worst strategy. If
Well, that
you're
has to
built,
be it.
and if you're built with pitching the way they are, because with the starting pitching they've got, like just get your ticket in and see what happens isn't insane.
Right.
Like they're going to have one of the best 3 or 4 staffs
Oh,
in
yeah.
postseason if they could make it. But you're, as far as drawing people to the ballpark, you're just going to have to do more Old Dominion concerts and Ellie De La Cruz basketball jerseys.
That's Old Dominion's a joke in our house because I think it was in 2018. My youngest son would have been like not quite 3 years old. And I sat here with my phone recording him, and we filled out an NCAA bracket, and he had Old Dominion winning the whole tournament. And he would point his finger in the air and he said, Old Dominion. And so every time they advertise that concert, my oldest son and I look at each other and just say, Old Dominion.
I have no idea what that band is. I assume it's like a B- list country band.
I assume so too. And it was funny last night or the night before, Tommy Thrall was really doing his best to sell like the idea that they're a good band, and I was like, does he really even know who they are? He didn't mention a song they sing or anything like that. He's like, well, if you could see them live, you ought to come out, It's like,
I just say this. I just looked them up and they look exactly
like you thought.
Like you would expect them to look.
There you go. Yeah, it's amazing to me. And listen, COVID itself ruined a lot of things for a lot of people. I understand that. But just like we talk about the Expos probably ended up being the position they were in because the 94 season didn't get to be finished, because that team was probably 1A or 1B best team in baseball. And then, they had to basically sell off the parts after that. The 2020 season, the way it was postponed and shortened and no fans in the stands and things like that, the one time this ownership really shelled out, right? And not all those guys were going to hit, but enough of them would have and did in that shorter season, that what they had already done with bringing in Sonny Gray and Bauer and all that, and then adding Castellanos and Moustakas and spending all the money that they did, like they're so afraid now. I can just picture the meeting back in 2021 or so of, we will never lose a dime again.
Yeah.
Or even come close. We will never not make money again.
And I wonder about that team, about that ownership. I really do wonder what their financial situation really is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know the team's worth a bunch of money, but I don't know if they have money outside of that team anymore. You
wonder, and that's the real problem, because you have the Steve Cohens of the world who buy, what's the guy's name, Ballmer for the Clippers and NBA.
It's just a toy for those guys.
They're just toys. And yeah, they bring it in sometimes because it's more money than they wanted to spend. But and listen, the Bengals were kind of like this too at one point, but now it feels like the money's just so big in the NFL that it doesn't matter as much. But these family-owned teams, these people whose really only income at this point is the professional team, it would seem, because the Castellini produce stuff doesn't seem to me to be, I don't know what their books look like, but they made their money elsewhere and then they got into this, but it doesn't feel like they have that much beyond the team itself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect them to operate at a loss over a long period of time.
No.
I'm not one of those guys like, well, the value went up. Like, yeah, but you can't just keep borrowing money.
Right.
You can't take out it's like living on a reverse mortgage.
But the funny thing is the Padres did that basically. And they sell out every game now
Mhm.
for 2 straight years or two
Well,
and a half years.
that's the thing. You can't do it indefinitely,
Right.
but I think you need to have the resources to be able to do it for 1 or 2 years.
Sure.
You have to be able to invest in the franchise, and that's what I worry they don't have. They
Mhm.
certainly don't have the willingness, and I actually, in good faith, think they don't have the ability necessarily to front to do it on the come, because they always talk about that. Well, if the fans show up,
Yeah.
then maybe we'll be able to go out and afford, a guy who makes some money.
I mean, there are worse. I think Pittsburgh Pirates ownership is probably worse on the whole.
Sure.
And, you know, what I would have said, and you and I had that conversation after opening day, and the way the stadium, and from last year when you went, the way the stadium seems to be a little less taken care of than it used to be in Cincinnati. The Pittsburgh, the PNC Park, like the beautiful view and all that, like there have been times when I've been over there where they've let it just completely, like the stadium itself isn't nearly as nice as when they opened, but you still have that dynamite view, right? So I think I think the Castellinis initially did so much more for Great American Ballpark and for the goodwill and taking care of the people that used to play there, right? The bringing guys back and things like that. But yeah, I just don't see it now. And I guess we've gone on about this longer than I intended, but it's worrisome for me because the apathy's there, and I just don't see how they can get out of it unless like one of those 12-game winning streaks, right? Or like Tito took the Guardians or Indians at the time, and they won like what 21 in a row at one point, and it
Yeah.
was like, oh my goodness, we love this team again. And I don't know. I will say, um, the Stadium Chaser Facebook page that we had the New York Mets fan on from that I saw his post. There was somebody the other day who went to Cleveland one night and Cincinnati the next, and he said the Great American Ballpark experience was way better than Cleveland.
I followed that page too after that show, and I was it's very noticeable how much, and these people are into it. Like
Mhm.
they're walking into Star Wars like
Right.
ready to be satisfied. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They're going to see Jerry Seinfeld in concert. They're going to laugh, but
Mhm.
they really like Great American Ballpark.
The people on that page do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have the atmosphere alone back in the 90s with Jacobs Field at the time, like it was just palpable when you go up there.
Yeah.
I went to playoff games up there in college in the late 90s, and I was actually at the game when Dwight Gooden got thrown out,
Oh yeah.
like in the first inning.
Yeah.
And that the highlights of that came up on YouTube or somewhere recently, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I forgot," because like David Justice hit a home run in that game playing for the Indians, and the number of things that happened in that game against Boston was just wild. That would have been 98, 90, yeah, 98. But yeah, kudos to that. I guess the folks from out of town like Great American better than a lot of other places. They always a lot of them say top 5 ballpark for them, and these guys have been to 20 plus ballparks, so. Pretty cool. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the wins these last 2 games as we record on Thursday, July 10th. And the good thing for me, Chris, was after scoring 1 run basically 4 games in a row, they scored the late run when they lost like 12-2 on Tuesday. They jumped out early, right? They scored 3 runs in the first on Wednesday night, 3 more runs in the fourth. They win the game 7-2. And I'm going to skip ahead to Thursday because in that game as well, running each of the first 2 innings, and then they scored 4 in the 6th. And the thing that I liked was middle of the lineup. Ellie De La Cruz 2 for 4 with an RBI. Austin Hayes 2 for 3 with 3 RBI. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those guys to pick it up.
Yeah, those guys are going to have to carry this team, because other than Friedel, I don't think there's anybody with any consistency. And I hate that word. That's a Jeff Brantley and a Marty Brenneman word. But I know what they mean. And I
Mhm.
mean, it doesn't mean being good. It means like giving you competitive at-bats every night, and there's
Right.
too many guys in that lineup who don't. So it's going to be Hayes, and it's going to be Friedel better get on, and Hayes and Ellie better combine for 3 or 4 hits a night, or they're not going to go anywhere.
And that's what happened Thursday. Spencer Steer hit a home run, and Trevino chimed in with another hit. Marte with a hit as well. Espinal came in for him later, got a hit himself. So, but you're absolutely right. Like that's what they've missed. Like at one point before Hayes just came back most recently, he'd only played in like 31 games in the first almost 3 months of the season. So definitely need his bat in the lineup, and it just proves again they just needed to add another bat in the offseason. Yeah, so here we are, and hopefully apathetic fans do not continue to grow, but we're getting to that point, Chris, and I just hope that the Reds themselves, the players on the field, I hope they can do the job in getting things done. Let's go ahead and turn toward viewer mail now. A lot of good responses this week on viewer mail. And honestly, like I said, it could have been a serious airing of grievances, but the Reds righted the ship a little last night, and then after a lot of these were sent in, they won again in a late. It was a 5:10 start on a Thursday. That was weird, but was that Old Dominion's fault? I assume. So Rex Scott chimes in. He says, "I don't know the answer to this question." He lets us off the hook because he doesn't know either. And he said, not sure if anybody does, but to your point earlier, what are some things that a hitter can do to be more consistently productive? We have been bemoaning the lack of offensive consistency on the Reds roster for some time. Are there things that good hitters or good teams do to promote consistency?
It's a very good question. I think I don't know that I have a great answer to promote it, but I will say some things that are more consistent than others is on base percentage. Batting average fluctuates a lot, but being selective and getting walks when they're offered is more consistent. So guys that rely on a high percentage of balls in play turning into hits are going to have more volatile, more variable results. I do think, though, if you're a high strikeout guy, that makes it hard for you to get lucky too. So, but I do think that if you have a good eye, if you take walks, you're going to be more consistently useful and productive.
The one guy I think of when I read that question, and it's because I guess I would like to put him on the bench more permanently by adding another outfielder. It's Will Benson.
Yeah.
And the thing that gets me is in 2023, remember he was like 0 for 32, and he comes back and he hits 280 on the year. But he had a 365 on base that year. So based on what he did that year in 108 games, like all last year, even when he was terrible, they pointed toward that on base for that 1 year. And last year's on base was 274, and this year it's 281.
Yeah.
And I like it when he does well. When he does well, it's fantastic.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. But what's interesting is that's all. I mean, that is all batting average. Now, Benson struck out more last year, like a ton more. He struck out 51 more times in 59 more at bats. I think, yeah. So he just wasted an entire month of play. But his walk rate is actually lower this year.
He's got 12
than
walks
it has been in any of the prior years.
Yeah.
So his batting average this year is 37 points higher than last year, but his on base is only 7 points higher.
His OPS plus in 2023 was 128.
Yeah. Now it's power, right? I mean, Benson hit 34 extra base hits that year in 108 games. And last year he had 33 last year and 400 at bats. So I don't know. I think his slugging takes a huge hit. Slugging and batting average go together by and large,
Sure.
obviously,
Yep.
and that's where he took a big hit. But this year, I would say he's kind of in the middle.
He is.
His batting average is up a little bit. His on base is up not nearly as what you'd think,
Right.
but his slugging's up. So he's traded those walks for some more power.
Yeah, I guess, but overall, to Rex's question again, like on the whole, I would say, especially since they don't have power hitters in this lineup, really. I mean, Ellie's becoming more of a power hitter, I guess, as time goes on. But on the whole, I guess if I say, let's look at the whole season when it's over, I think Chris Valleca and whatever strategy they're using, it feels a little old school, right? Making contact. I don't think that's wrong for this group of players that are assembled, but it might not be as sexy as what you'd like to see.
Let me make a correction. Will Benson did not trade walks for power. He traded walks for singles this year.
Okay.
Because he only has like 8 extra base hits or something. Or 14, I don't know. But I'll tell you a guy on the Reds who is very consistent is Santiago Espinal.
Mm-hmm.
He gives you exactly the same garbage every night. So, let's not be like too excited about consistency. I mean, I was complaining about earlier, and I had Will Benson in mind. But, Santiago Espinal's batting average this year is the last 3 years has been within 4 points.
Yeah.
His on base percentage has been within 20 points. Now, this year he has no power at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. With the roster they have, I think you're right. They're probably doing what they should do. I think they should probably run more.
Yeah.
If you're not going to hit the ball over the fence, you probably need to run the bases more.
No, more people are willing to talk right now about Ellie playing with that slight injury. I heard Jim Day talk about it a little bit. I think I heard Charlie Goldsmith while interviewing Freddie Benavides that they're not saying what the leg injury is, but they're basically saying that they've asked him to dial it way back and like maybe run 80% like effort, and that's going to be good enough. And you see it. Like there's been a few grounders where a second baseman has to go to the grass, and 2 years ago and last year he would have beat him out.
Yeah.
And he's just not able to get there this year.
Yeah.
And Friedel's not a base stealer per se, and McLean actually has like, what's he have? Like in just over 162 games played in his career, I think he has something like 25 steals, which is decent, but it's not Ellie's 67 that he had last year.
I mean, McLean somehow has 13 steals this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's stealing a base about every 6 or 7 times he gets on base.
That's
But yeah, other than that, I mean, they're not a very fast team, I guess, now that I think about it.
No.
I'm looking at these names, and it's
Hayes isn't fast.
Hayes isn't fast. Fraley's not fast. Espinal, Marte, Gavin Lux, like those guys don't run well.
No. In fact, the funny thing is, if he ever gets on base, Christian Encarnacion Strand actually looks faster than a lot of those guys, but he's not on base. No, I think that's where it is, and I think if they could stick with the same plan, if Valleca and Tito are like meshed together in their plan, and they can stick with it for more than just half a season, then maybe it bears more fruit out of players you're not seeing that from. But it really comes down to what kind of players you have too.
Yeah, I mean, Seth, you're going to look at the end of the year at a team playing in Great American Ballpark.
Yes.
That very conceivably could have one player with 20 home runs.
I agree. Yeah. And
that's obscene.
And that's, like I said a few weeks ago, Scott Schebler and Adam Duvall fell off a turnip truck and hit 30 home runs in the same year together.
Yeah.
Like they had never played real big league time before they got traded to the Reds. And I don't know that you thought either of them was going to hit for that kind of power, and yet they did. And Duvall's carved out a pretty decent career, but Yeah, no, it's the Espinal thing. I still maintain if you could keep Espinal only playing like 3 days a week and not being a regular player, then he's still valuable. But he had to play third base for at least half of the season so far this year, like basically every day.
I mean,
And
he is what he is.
yeah, no. All right, Joey Gaditza from the North Country up in Canada. I used to call where you live the North Country because it was the furthest place I had to drive as a beat writer of high school sports. But Joey's got you outdistanced by quite a bit up there in Canada. And he says, how many moves are the Reds going to make from now until July 31st? And he says, I'll say 2, 1 reliever and 1 bat, even if it's a platoon bat. He asked what says us. I think that's where we are. I mean, the over-under is probably honestly only 1.5, in my opinion, as far as trades. Now, you might get more than one player in a trade, I guess. But I just, again, track record, right? Like, the thing I was going to say earlier, I was like, we're not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe anymore, right? I mean, we know what you're up to until you show otherwise.
Yep.
James Urban's going to take us off the beaten path yet again, and he says, if sour cream is already sour, why does it need an expiration date?
I like that.
James.
I think that's a very good question.
I guess. I don't know if I've ever read a question from our next viewer. And I'm going to butcher your last name, Carl, but Carl Mitz, Mitze. Do I pronounce the E in any way, you think?
Oh.
I want to honor, and maybe Chad already did it with Carl, but I haven't read a question, I don't think, in the time I've been hosting the show. Where would a Carl Mitz or Mitz, where would he play if he was on our company softball team?
I assume he's the catcher.
Mitz, yeah, gotta be. He could play for the Marysville Mitz if he was younger.
It's true.
Yeah. His question: what do we think about Lodolo for Taylor Ward? About a Lodolo for Taylor Ward trade? And Taylor Ward, he's the Angel, right?
Yes.
He says, well, let's answer that. Again, there's outfielders out there. You know, there's the Orioles have multiple. The Red Sox seem to have a few. If Stephen Kwan's really available, I would take Duran or Kwan over Ward, but I don't know.
Yeah, Ward is going to be, I mean, he's your Adam Dunn super light. Right now he's got 20 home runs, 102 strikeouts. He's batting .227, slugging .471. So it's what they need. I wouldn't hate it. Who did they say Nick Lodolo for him, though?
That's what he said. That's what gets me with some of these suggestions. Like, is Taylor Ward an everyday player the rest of the season? Like, I guess you could stick him there every day, but with this team's propensity for platoons and whatnot, I don't know if you trade right now your number 3
I mean,
starter.
they better not platoon him. I mean, he's a right-handed hitter, so you don't want to platoon and get him twice a week. You know, I don't think he's a Will Benson caddy. I mean, he's a legit player, but he's probably a 2-win player. And I think Lodolo is probably better than that.
I do too. Yeah, I don't think so. Like, for some reason, I am a little excited about the idea of Duran. So like I'd almost make that deal.
Yeah, I'm kind of low man on Lodolo at this point.
Yeah,
but he's already got 2.5 wins. I mean, he's a real player.
Well, let me tell you, he gutted out today, Thursday. He was in I'm only going to be able to pitch 4 innings lane for quite a while because of his pitch count. And he pitched, I think, 6 innings with only 91 pitches.
Yeah.
So he found his level, and he got there, and he cruised the rest of that way. I give him credit for that. And honestly, with Hunter Green still out, and with Rhett Lauder probably not coming back until September at the earliest, it's going to have to blow me away to trade one of your starting pitchers.
I agree.
If you're trying to make the playoffs. All right, and so Carl breaks one of Chad's old rules. I don't really have the same rule. I'm looking for content, so I'll allow it. Carl says I have a bonus question. If you can hop in the redo time machine, what draft pick do you grab from the last 5 amateur drafts to retroactively solve our outfield bat issue? And who would you swap out for that bat that the Reds picked? Thanks. Boy, I should have read that earlier and really gone to do some homework.
Oh, this is good. The Athletic Cincinnati Reds beat writer, if he's still employed there, put out an article analyzing the last so many Reds first round picks.
Right. Okay.
So you've got this right here. And I think the very easy question is to take Pete Crow Armstrong instead of Austin Hendrick in the 2020 draft.
That's like, you don't even have to go any further.
No.
Austin Hendrick just had the week of his life, though, in Double-A. So fingers crossed.
I mean, you could take Jordan Walker, and I wouldn't be as happy, but I'd be happy enough.
Jordan Walker,
or you could take Corbin Carroll instead of Nick Lodolo.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to look back in a few years ago as far as Charlie Condon versus Chase Burns, because that's who everybody thought the Reds would take, was Charlie Condon.
Yeah.
And they took Burns, and it looks probably like a good move at this point. And you don't draft unless the guy is almost major league ready, like Burns was. Like, you don't draft for what you need right now. Usually, like that's the old story about why the Reds didn't take Derek Jeter, because they just traded Eric Davis, and the theory was we need a power hitting outfielder, so we're going to take Chad Mottola instead of this Derek Jeter guy. And basically, I think it was Chief Bender, the scout, basically wanted to quit on the spot because he's like, well, we got Barry Larkin. Well,
find a spot. Derek Jeter could have been a center fielder in 1993.
I'd like to have taken Pete Crow Armstrong just so he's not wearing a Cubs uniform.
Yeah, that guy's something.
And I don't even know if long term he can sustain all that stuff he swings at. But
you'd think at some point the league would adjust.
Yeah, but they never adjusted to Guerrero. Vladimir Guerrero Sr. I mean,
yeah,
but he was certainly a little different. Yeah, Carl. I'm glad. Glad Chris was able to do that really quickly, because I've been running around all day and I didn't get to read the second part of your question, but I think that answers it. So they took Austin Hendrick ahead of Pete Crow Armstrong.
Austin Hendrick was taken 12th.
Yeah.
Pete Crow Armstrong was taken 19th. Garrett Mitchell was taken 20th. Jordan Walker 21st.
I'll never forget the Cardinals fan back in 23 trying to tell me Jordan Walker was as good or better than Ellie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't age very well. But
no. How would you have liked, instead of Jonathan India, to have Cal Raleigh? I mean, he was taken 90th, so everybody had multiple shots.
Yeah. Right. I mean, they could have taken him 3 times by then.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, he passed the number of home runs, like 30 home runs or whatever. Like, I think Bench maybe had that at the All-Star break in 70. And I'm really getting tired of these since the All-Star break stats are idiotic, because for like 5 years now, they've played the All-Star break a full 2 weeks after they would have played it back in the 70s. Like, you're playing 90 some games versus just like 85 or so before the All-Star break. So none of this should matter. Like, you should put it on a game. Like, the first half of the season should be the mark, right? 81 games. But he had 30 home runs like 3 weeks ago. It's just, he is so good. And we were in Seattle last summer. My sister lives there. She tried to call me a minute ago and I didn't answer because I'm talking to you. But we were there and we went to this. We were over by UW, Washington, and we met up with a relative of my wife's who lives out there. And it was a place kind of like First Watch, kind of like we have here in Columbus. The chain of breakfast places, First Watch.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little frou-frou than that, but we sit down and I look at the menu, and on the menu is this like breakfast burrito called the Big Dumper. That's last year, and it's like he's only growing in stature.
Oh man,
posterior.
I don't want to eat that first thing in the morning.
It was a breakfast burrito. Actually, I did eat it. It was good. All right, Carl. Good couple questions there. Pete Crow Armstrong playing right field for your Redlegs would be very satisfying. How hard would it have been to draft in 2022 though? And then the thing I laugh at is the Reds took a high school outfielder. Like you have no, like he didn't even play a senior season. And
Yeah, I know.
so,
But still, I mean, I understand why they didn't take a kid from LA, a high school kid from LA. They probably didn't have a scout there.
yeah,
For all I know, Devin Mrazorosco told him to take Austin Hendrick.
he takes credit for the good things, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just to me that was a real crapshoot, and they told on themselves by shortening the draft as much as they did because they're like, we don't know who we can take.
Yeah.
But they only do like 5 rounds or something.
I think it was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't much.
Maybe 8. I don't know. Yeah, it was not normal, and now it's even shorter than the old way. But all right, Sid Price, getting us back on track. Interesting question. Am I the only one who thinks starting pitching is a sneaky need?
I don't think that. I don't think I think that.
You don't think it's a need?
I don't. No. I mean, it's not a need. It's not a need worth addressing with this organization and the other needs on the team.
Okay.
Fair? I mean, yeah, I'd love to throw another starter out there. I get nervous about I'd like to move Nick Martinez to the bullpen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But with where we are, it's hard to justify it.
100 Green's going to be just as good as a trade, Sid. So, no, we're going to send him out to Arizona. We don't think MRIs are the same out there. No, I mean if you had like what was that trade in 1995? They got Mark Portugal and Darren Lewis, and they addressed like several needs at once. And sent Dion out there.
Give up Dion.
Yeah. That trade, and I that trade gets me every time because I was sad they traded Dion because I love Dion for the flash and all that, but it really addressed a lot of things. It was like
I think that was a great trade, and I probably talked about it on this podcast before, but the one thing I always think about with Mark Portugal is the night that he got food poisoning in Miami.
Uh-huh.
And he was pitching, and he was basically green on the mound. He was like throwing up. He may have thrown up on the field, but he definitely was throwing up in between innings. And he looked like death warmed over, and he continued to pitch. And that, like, when I think of Mark Portugal as a Red, that's the only thing I think of.
Well, the one thing I think of is funny is I'm trying to pull up that trade. When I was in high school at the time, and I had to write a book report, and I got the Marge Schott book and wrote a report about Marge Schott, and I snuck in there that Mark Portugal was nicknamed the human rain delay. And my teacher was like, this doesn't matter. It was like, because I talked about the trade for whatever reason, and that Marge didn't really want to lose Dion, I don't think. But yeah, think about this. You got Dave Burba, Darren Lewis, and Mark Portugal. And you gave up basically John Roper, Deion Sanders, and Scott Service.
Not bad.
So you got 2 starting pitchers in Darren Lewis to play center field, who was a steadier player than Dion at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was something.
They used to know how to do it back then.
Yeah, you don't see trades like that. I mean, remember when they traded for Roland, everybody was like rolling their eyes. Like, why would you trade for somebody when you're not in the playoff hunt? And it's like, well, I'm trying to make the team better going forward.
Yeah. Now, was that the same year that they traded for Juan Guzman?
No, Guzman was 99.
Okay.
David Wells was 95.
David Wells. Okay, yeah. Those are like the 3 big trades I remember getting a pitcher for.
But the crazy thing is they gave up C.J. Nikowski to the Tigers for David Wells. And in 99, they gave up B.J. Ryan.
Yeah, they gave up
and he ended up being a great closer. Yeah. Brandon Kamek chimes in with a question as well, but he's asking about Stephen Kwan and the Jeff Passan report. Brandon, we already addressed that.
Asked and answered, Brandon.
That's right. That's right. Kyle Kapler, what is Nick Martinez and why am I asking this?
Yeah.
Well, we've already expressed our concern.
But
and listen, I've defended.
If we reported on Tuesday, I would have had a lot more Nick Martinez thoughts, probably.
I've defended him a little more than other folks, and he's proven me right a few times. But overall, I think when the best answer is to somehow put him in the bullpen, it shows that I don't think for a full season he's the answer as one of your everyday, like every rotation starters. I guess that's the way I feel about it.
No. It's funny. It tells you like how things have changed that nobody really talks about Nick Martinez being the highest paid Red.
Mm-hmm.
Like 15 years ago, that's what we would have heard nothing but
That is one good thing. I don't think salaries are as worried about, except for like when they absolutely don't work, and when you're talking about like how they had to, they had to eat so much of Candy's deal and Moustakas a couple years ago and Shogo and I'll bring those up, but
for a team that doesn't spend any money,
right?
They've spent a lot of money on a garbage can.
Yeah, like DJ LeMahieu gets dumped, and I think he's owed $15 million this year and 20 some next year. Or no, maybe no, it's 15 next year. It's 22 total that the Yankees will have to pay him, and it's like that's nothing to them. I mean,
right?
But the Reds eat 23 million Candelario or whatever it was, and it's like, holy cow, that's not good. That's really a bad allocation of your funds.
Well, the funny thing is, though, we still get the story every year this time of year about Bobby Bonilla cashing his check.
That's right. That's and I laugh at that because the same people that will tell you that Bobby Bonilla should have taken the money up front. It was only like 6.1 million, but because he waited so long to get it, it stretches out to what it is, 1 point whatever a year for however many years, many more than 6. But they say he should have invested it all, and if you do just very, very like conservative investing, he would have made more money, and that's true. But number one, most people don't invest everything. And number two,
right.
Steve Phillips himself said that the whole plan in this idea, when the owner brought it to him to see if his agent would take the deal when they cut him, was they were going to take the 6 point whatever million and give it to Bernie Madoff.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And the plan was they would have made 30 to 40 million, and then they were only going to pay Bonilla, whatever it is, 15 to 18 million.
Yeah.
And
he would have paid taxes on that money up front anyway.
Right.
I mean, he pays taxes now, but
but the idea that the team owner, who's supposedly more savvy than a player, was his answer was to just give it to Bernie Madoff and lose it all. That proves
yeah, they lost a lot of money with Madoff.
They sure did, but that proves to me that Bonilla's coming out great in this deal.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and then now he can invest whatever he wants of it. That's fine.
Yep.
All right, Dave Magrum is going to wrap us up, I think, although there are some replies to this. He says, am I still on an island by myself saying Steer is the Reds' first baseman?
I'm not married to him.
Yeah. I mean, if they would sign Pete Alonso in the offseason, he wouldn't be. Although Pete might be DHing, but whatever.
I mean, Steer is a solid player and a decent enough first baseman, and I'm fine considering him the incumbent. But if somebody else gets hot and they need a spot, and Steer's not playing well, I don't need to go down with that ship.
Well, and then the next answer is, as long as Steer's arm is workable, better than it was back in April, he can go elsewhere.
Yeah.
If you stumbled across an all-star first baseman, then but he's fine. I think he's a good major league player.
And with the lack of power they have, I think needs to be in the lineup.
I agree. Hit one today, as we said. And Dave broke Chad's cardinal rule of not asking more than one question, but we'll allow it. He said also, what can we do to get a special guest appearance from Chad for the viewer mail section once in a while? The new crew is great, but sometimes I just miss that twangy accent. I am in talks with Chad. I am hopeful that he will sit here with us sometime soon.
Chad has also agreed to allow me to use prior podcasts to generate an AI version of Chad that we can use to say whatever we want.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you have
So
this in writing?
it's a implied agreement.
Okay.
I haven't actually talked to him about it, but I'm sure he's good with it.
Andrew Williams said, would another Southwest Virginian suffice? Because I can come on and say the names Liz Alberto Bonilla and Adam Dunn if you would like.
I think that's very good. Very good. We could just have him play the role of Chad.
That's right. All right.
We have to go off camera that episode. It'll be
Yeah,
audio
well,
only.
we can. There are ways to come on without being on camera. So, and then the other day, the webcam that Tim Daniel told me I should get failed him in his show, and the light went out, and he was basically a shadow. And Chad accused him of being in witness protection. Well, hey, I was at a point earlier in this show when I didn't want to talk about those losses. So all we talked about was the 2 wins. And I looked at the clock and I thought we weren't going to get to an hour. And here we are. Viewer mail. The slackers came through for us and took us past an hour mark. And I didn't even get to ask you what you think of Alfredo Duno.
I am I have no opinion yet.
Okay. 19 years old. He's in Daytona. So he's in low A ball down in Florida for the second consecutive year. Only 19. He's a catcher, but he's reached base in 36 consecutive games. He's going to play in the Futures game, which is idiotically scheduled for Saturday, I believe. If I ran baseball, the home run derby would be Monday. The All-Star game would be Tuesday. The Futures game would be Wednesday. And the draft would kick off on Thursday. All 4 nights, you have no other sports to compete against.
Pretty smart.
You're competing with yourself on Saturday and Sunday. So anyway, Duno, my buddy lives down there, and he went to see the Tortugas last weekend. He's seen, I think he has a couple of autographed baseballs by now, but he's seen them multiple times, and he thinks he's the real deal. He's a big kid, and he's going to play catcher for now, but he can hit, and he's only 19.
Yeah, I mean, and he handles the bat pretty well too. He doesn't strike out a lot. He walks about as much as he strikes out.
Yeah, he's almost even, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see if power comes as he. I mean, he's a big dude. Like if he grows into some power, I'd be interested.
Nobody in that Florida State League hits for power though. Like for some
Is that
reason,
the deal?
yeah, it's a pitcher's league by far, and so I'd like to see him up in Dayton or in Chattanooga pretty soon to find out what he can do. But no, I'm interested. That'll be if DVRs are still a thing out there and whatever television you have, I'm probably going to hit record on the Futures game when I'm not watching TV on a Saturday or when I'm watching the Reds while it's being played. So yeah, no, I'm excited to see how he does, and very young though, right? 19, unlikely to be in the big leagues for at least 2 years at the quickest.
Tyler Stevenson is safe.
Yeah, he is. Well, and they just gave all that money to Trevino too. All right, for Liz Alberto Bonilla. Is that about how he used to try to say it? I don't know. And who else? Dave Parker, whom got a jersey hung on the wall.
Yeah, that was cool. Is that a permanent deal or just the rest of the year deal?
The rest of the year, because they already have one of Pete there too, I think. But I remember they did that for Nuxall just the 1 year, like the year he passed, and they'll do that from time to time. Joe Morgan, I think, had one as well. So no, sad he couldn't go to Cooperstown, right, and see himself get there. We could debate further his candidacy for the Hall, but if Harold Baines is there, then he probably does.
Open it up.
Harold Baines will be forever the guy that I'll
Yes.
say. And there's still a list of guys. There's Dale Murphy.
He makes Jim Rice feel pretty good about himself.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, enjoy your middle of July. And I am out of the baseball coaching business as the Pony League is over. So I'm done with that. And for everyone else here at the Riverfront, please check out everything on socials, on the YouTube channel. Hit a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with a friend. Join the Patreon group. We'll get you settled in on the Slack channel. And you can come be a part of the conversation and ask viewer mail questions that continue to bolster this show week by week. Chris Garber, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
So long, everybody.